Welcome to Stealership Stories, where we're using your car to get slushies from the gas station.
That's true.
I'm your host, Lou.
Wendy's, could be cheeseburgers.
Oh, yeah.
Milkshakes.
Well, that's the worst, though, because you want to make sure that it's a summer day so the windows are down.
Well, you want some sort of odor-free food.
Yeah,
when
odor-free.
You're using your client's car to get food.
Definitely.
Do not leave the top down while it's parked in the parking lot in the vicinity of their home.
Yeah, don't drive near their home.
Don't frequent the places they also may frequent as a senior citizen. Anybody, really.
Yeah,
Waffle
definitely.
Houses,
or awkwardly running into the customer at Big Al's strip club.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't
Even if you've got a card from the owner of Big Al's stating you're welcome to be there anytime.
And if you do notice a client, don't wave. Just avoid eye contact.
Yes,
he didn't see you. You didn't see him. Everything goes on about the normal business.
Any other similar luxury cars doing a UE behind you, I think you've got a pretty good story about even some police, perhaps.
You know, there's been a few haptics
Russians with the law.
Yeah,
trunk maybe involved.
Well, the trunk story will come about. We're gonna
Bush maybe was there.
There was Bush in the trunk. Yeah, I had Bush in the trunk. Well,
diagnosing noise concerns.
We'll get to that one. That's my finishing move. That's my fatality. Yeah. So we're gonna hang on to that one for a few more episodes. When we could
sum it up.
We get some good listeners. We'll
a good technician will really go above and beyond to try to accurately diagnose noise concerns.
Laying inside the hood while the hood is open while doing 20 in the parking lot, right? Swerving,
hanging onto a car.
Absolutely.
Anything.
Yeah. So you've seen these YouTube videos and other videos of dash cams or just hidden cams catching technicians doing stuff. And
I love those. They're hilarious.
They are, and they're so true.
You can relate to every one of them.
They're true. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. I've done some. I'm not going to say shady, but I've done some things in cars.
Questionable decisions, we'll say.
They were made, and it was nothing personal, right?
It was not. It was more convenience.
I didn't have a vendetta. I mean, the car, you come in for a concern that needs road tested.
You got to road
What
test.
does it matter if we road tested to McDonald's or if we road tested around the block? It's still
Dairy Queen there.
We didn't. We just whether we went through the drive-through or not, and again, so
the other technician was there to help diagnose and verify the repair.
All four of them were helping. All four people in the car were trying to diagnose your noise.
It's hard work.
Which is true, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so you got a noise and you don't know where it's coming from, right? So you got to have multiple bodies in the car. And there have been times that, a customer would call in saying, hey, you guys are joyriding my car. Well, you know what? There's truth to that because we're riding in the car. Yeah. Not only are we riding in the car, but we're pretty joyful, right? So
you can't deny
but
that.
all in the same, we have a purpose and we're trying to fix your car.
We're doing a job. This is our work, our profession.
Exactly. That's where I come to say,
take us seriously.
When I drop my car off, I don't care what you do in between as long as I get it back and everything works how I dropped it off, right? So, whether you Ferris Bueller me or not, I don't care.
There are exceptions to the rules, but they're rare. They are rare. The guy that trailers over his GT3 RS that picks it up with 163 miles on it. Those occasions do happen,
and nobody knows what happened. Your car has 163 more miles on it, and
we've got cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
just didn't catch the guy. I don't know.
Speaking of cameras, story time.
Oh boy,
story time, man. So where's our soundboard?
Right.
We need something to clean or bang on. So
damn it, Tim.
The dealer personnel install a security system and it has cameras, right? Now we've got a few different run-ins with these cameras and the cool things they capture. So we'll start out with the Ninja Dude, right?
Oh, classic.
Okay, so now we have video of this and I will find it and I will post it somewhere to share because this is ultimately just wow. So
it's entertaining. I don't know what happened to that guy.
The camera software has different color lines for when it notices movement, and then when it notices movement, it starts to take quicker snapshots, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's every 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and then it notices movement, and then it's every 2 or 3. So it's a lot quicker.
Standby, and
something like
they
that.
Can save recording space when nothing's moving.
So, how the story starts is the dealer owner was supposed to be coming in to inspect the dealership or whatever. Parts department was all cleaned up for the night. They come in Monday morning and they got a bad report because the parts department had a bunch of boxes all over the floor. So they're trying to figure out what happened. So they decide to go to the cameras. As they're watching these cameras, our lovely Irish buddy, Dougal McDougal, Marine, salute.
Props to Dougal.
He comes across movement on an outside wall camera. So we zoom in on the camera, and what happens? We come to find out that every Sunday at 6 a.m. before sun comes up, a Toyota Tundra truck pulls into the back lot. A tall, lanky gentleman gets out of the truck with a bow staff, and he does ninja acrobatics behind the dealership.
Impressive. I mean, sunrise coming up. I mean, it couldn't be more picturesque.
It's poetic. It's very serene.
Beautiful.
I mean,
dew on the ground.
If we only had sound of the hyas and the hoos and the whips of the bow staff through the air, the crisp morning brisk air. The stuff that camera catches.
We never met that guy.
Never met. I had a thought that I should hide in the dumpster with a mask and see if he could put his skills to the test. But
techniques.
6 a.m. was too early for me. I never got to work on time. So.
On the other side of the coin, on innocent camera catching bystanders, we also have the crazy stuff that happens. Just not that long ago, they went to start up one of our wholesale parts delivery drivers went to start up the parts van and noticed that it sounded very loud. It was it was now a straight pipe van, which is an old E350 or whatever those are, Econoline, just commercial vans. Get the car in the shop and get it up. It didn't even have to put it on the lift. The tech just slid under it and looked at the exhaust, and it was missing the catalytic converters.
Oh, nice.
Both sides cats were gone.
Nice.
And then out there, once they pulled it out in the spot where it was parked, there was catalytic converters from some other car out there, another random catalytic converter. But the whole story ended up is they went through all the footage. They saw the truck come in and park next to the van. The truck was a specific, like, little white pickup, Ranger S10 kind of, older model pickup. It had a washer strapped down in the back. Our assistant service manager,
mobile washing station. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
He was scrapping the washer too. Nice. I guess, I don't know. The washing all the funds that you got from those catalytic converters.
Maybe he was cleaning the converters with the washer. You never know.
Long story short, short story long.
Very long.
Yeah. They drove around and found the guy, and he's now in, I'm sure, probably Peoria County Jail.
Nice.
So the cameras don't always
fail us.
Yeah, they don't always provide entertainment. Sometimes they are CSI tools, but some interesting things can be seen from the dealership closed circuit cameras, and then oddly enough, I don't know how this ended up. I'm one of the few people left with access to the cameras, so they usually end up coming to my workstation, so I get to see a lot of the weird stuff that gets discovered on the cameras.
All the good stuff, the good meaty stuff.
Yeah, try to find out if a car gets damaged, and that's another thing too. Just with visiting the shop, it doesn't hurt to do a walk around in your car beforehand. Even do it with the service writer if they don't do it as part of their write-up process. Walk around the car. It's no fun when they come to pick it up, or when you come to pick it up, to do the walk around then and they have newly found damage that obviously was there. It's older. We try to do thorough walk arounds, take pictures and that type of thing beforehand. But be honest. We'll be honest. You be honest. Everybody be honest. And we always have the video to go back on and see what the condition of the car was before the write-up process. But anyway, I think we were gonna
back to the cameras.
Yeah, we were going a little astray there, but
there in my existence in the car dealership world, very few times that I abuse the power as far as mistreating the car, right? Because too many accidents have happened that way. But, there are times that, you just jump in a customer's car because it needed driven and you needed miles done. So you take it someplace personal, and the 63 AMGs were the best to drive around. But,
well, remember you got back from road testing.
I did. Yeah.
The C63.
The church people. Yep.
That's right. And was straight up confronted, what were you doing driving my car?
Absolutely.
And I mean, you had just walked out the paperwork there and he had just pulled in and he had just seen you pulling out a lot in his car. I don't think you were getting on it.
Not at all.
From what I understood from him. But he was just very, obviously concerned with someone driving his $80,000, Mercedes.
That the churchgoers pay for.
tax-free Mercedes.
Just saying.
Believe it or not, we do see a lot of tax-free purchases made in the luxury market. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Jesus wants you riding in style.
So back to communication. He was pretty hot. And he's a big boy. He's a big muscular boy, right?
Dude.
I hit him head on. And I let him know, hey, I got a job I got to do. Here's what I was doing. If there's a problem, I can't help you then because I can't drive the car and make sure it's fixed. It needed driven because I have a really good memory. I wish I could remember what the repair was. I want to say the headlights had to come out or there was a rattle noise or something like that. I did a bunch of work to the bumper and had to come off, and I wanted to make sure there was no noises.
I was trying to ensure your experience getting the car back was what you expected, and looking over the vehicle for any other issues. I wasn't driving it hard, just being not confrontational or not having any issue with him wondering why you were driving it, but just answering matter of factly.
I was extremely transparent.
Exactly. Just very upfront with him and said, it was a very short test drive. I was not abusing your vehicle. I respect your vehicle, and I want you to continue bringing it here and trust us. And a lot of those problems, and immediately they still bring their cars to us.
Oh, I remember he was a customer of mine for life. He'd want me to work on his car all the time, whether we had that issue or not.
It's never been an issue. His father still brings his cars in, and his father's wife brings her car in. I mean, we service it's still to this day all their family's cars. So opportunities like that will arise. And issues will arise where you have a decision to make on whether you can turn tail and hide, or you can, just be upfront and honest with the client.
And, sometimes
explain what's going on.
Back to what you had said about me speaking my mind at times. There was we have a client, or not that I work there anymore, whatever. But the client was very particular about his cars. And we knew that when his cars were coming in, it was going to be a headache, mainly because if it was his idea, it was the best idea. If it was your idea, it was the worst idea. And let's say the perfect example was one of his SUVs, it needed tie rods. And he says, there's only a little bit of play. Why can't you let it go? Right. But if I would have let it go and told him there's only a little bit of play, he would have yelled at me and said, why don't you fix it? It shouldn't have any play. So, on one car, he tells me this thing better ride perfect. It's for my mom. But on the next car, he's like, well, if it's loose, just run a sheet metal screw through it, and it'll make do. And I'm like, who is this guy? And he would ask for me all the time. And the one time he came in and he mentioned something about asking for me, and I let him have it in a nice way. And in the nicest way I can do me, I said, you know what, man? I appreciate you bringing it to me, but I really don't want to work on your cars ever. I said, honestly, you bring them in here and I give it to the coworker, because every time I work on your car, there's something scratched, something's missing, something's wrong. I didn't do something right. However, you never bring it back to me to let me make it right. It's miraculously taken care of by another shop or one of your guys at your shop. And he goes, oh no, man, if that's the way you think of me as that customer, I don't want to be that customer. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're that customer. When we see your name, it's really rough to want to work on your car. And I just want to be honest with you, because I have tremendous knowledge and experience, and I can fix a car. I do not want to waste my time with your car, because every time I suggest something, you want to sidestep it because for some reason you want to win the battle, right? No matter what angle you're coming from, whether it's make it work or why did you make it work and not fix it the right way?
Sure.
I'm like, you know what, man, you got a problem. You come to me direct. Let me take care of it. Don't be giving me this stuff where every time Lou touches my car, something's scratched or missing or broken and I got to take it to my guys and have them fix it. Then I get the car back and there's no evidence of any of that stuff. Right. So, it was a really awkward. I remember we were underneath the car and I believe you walked up and you heard us talking and you just kind of backed away.
but I know who you're talking about, and he's still a customer of ours to this day. He still brings his cars there. He's still a pain in the ass, but he does. I mean, we just recently worked on one of his SUVs that, he spent close to $10,000 on getting this thing refurbished and just everything that we'd recommended done. So he's, a lifelong client of ours. Yeah, he's a little more challenging than most of the others, but you learn, how to, respond and react and what to say to people that, kind of makes them feel comfortable. And sometimes you do need to have that frank conversation with them and, kind of draw the line.
Absolutely.
If, ego's involved and, especially around a bunch of men, it's just one guy trying to outdo the other one. And that usually never ends well. But yeah, there is a point in time where you've got to, let someone in. And usually if they're a business owner or, they've worked, they'll understand. They appreciate that. They want you to know that, hey, okay, maybe I was being a little bit of a dick there. There's different ways of saying things. And, again, communication is key and letting people know kind of where they stand and where you have a line. Everyone's got a line, and it's better to make that known than just let it cross it over and over again and explode and make it a much bigger situation. So.
I've had a lot of run-in with customers over the years, mainly because you on my end as a technician, I was doing the best that I could to take care of them. On their end, they had nothing but negative thoughts in my direction, which made it hard for me to want to take care of them. I almost had to fight them to take care of them, right? And I'll talk about a lot of those experiences because sometimes you have to have that really hard, awkward conversation, and from then on out, you've got a customer for life because you've just made it that more personable.
Right.
I'll tell you one tidbit, which I'm sure a lot of listeners will have currently. Every time you bring your car into the shop, they try to sell you something. Well, guess what? If you never do anything, they're always going to try to sell you the same stuff that you've never done.
Declined last time.
I literally chased one lady out of the dealership after sitting there for 10 seconds, staring at my manager, rolling my eyes, going, what do I do? Let her yell at me or go and let her know that she's the problem, right?
Sure.
So I decided, screw it. Nothing's going to change unless I make a change. So I ran out there after her and I said, ma'am, why are you so angry? Well, every time I come here, you try to sell me something. I says, well, if you'll give me a few minutes of your time, I'd like to talk through you with this. And she's okay, fine. So she comes back inside and granted, she's still mad, and that's fine. I just let me say my piece. You can be as mad as you want. Just let me tell you my side and you can do what you want to do from here. So I went through her history, and of the 10 years she's been coming there, never once has she done anything that they suggested. And I asked her why. And she goes, well, I don't think my car needs it. So I responded, well, you've never done anything in 10 years. Every year there's an additional thing added to it. So the bill is growing and growing and growing. I'm not selling these to you because I have nothing better to do. Your job as a customer is to bring your broken car to me and tell me what's wrong with it. My job as a service advisor is to tell you what's wrong with it and present you with the options to make it right. You've chosen to decline everything. So now the only thing I'm doing is bringing up everything that you've never done.
Same stuff.
So now let me ask you, if you never want me to make another mention of any of this, I will put notes in here and we will never talk about this again. I will never try to sell you on anything. We will do only what you ask. And if there's a problem, we're releasing liability to you. It's not our problem. And you know what? She tucked tail and she says, I'm sorry. I just felt like you were trying to pull one over on me because I'm a woman, which you hear that a lot, which didn't make any sense because the previous person whose job I took, she was a woman and she was the assistant service manager. So not that I didn't buy the story, but it didn't really mesh at the time. But I said, okay, I understand your feelings, but it's on you now. You tell me. If you don't, just say, Lou, don't sell me anything. That's fine. I'm cool with that, right? I'll make the money on somebody else. I'd rather you have a good interaction from the time you come in to the time you leave, and not be mad every time I try to sell you something, because I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just providing you with the options to fix what's broken. So if you never do any of those, we're dead in the water, right? So if you just want oil changes, I'll put notes in here. We're only doing oil changes. I'll make notes when there's something wrong, and it's up to you to come to me and tell me when you're ready to hear this information. And from that point on, I believe we fixed a handful of things that she really did need. And she was my customer for life. Always asked to talk to me. She appreciated my honesty. Yeah. We had it out like a boyfriend girlfriend would have had it, right? And the guy's next to me, and my manager is looking at me, pulling her hair, going, "You're fucking crazy to do this." But at the same time, it needed to be done. It was never going to change until somebody made that call. Sure. And that is not the first time. That is, No, plenty more of those kind of stories. So with this podcast, on this episode, I'm going to take you into the technician world. Okay. A lot of people, almost everybody who has a car and brings it to get fixed, has no idea how anybody behind that counter gets paid. And that actually is what creates a huge amount of the mistrust between the shop and the client. So I'll talk a little bit about the technician side, and you can touch on the advisor side if you want. That way you can have some input here. You can do some job and talk.
Got some stuff to say.
So spoken to. But so from a technician standpoint, there are books and guides that give us what's called flat rate time, or book time, or time units, however you want to call it. Every job was performed in a shop, and they timed it, and they put those into tenths. So 60 minutes is an hour. So 1/10 is 6 minutes. And then you get into other brands like Volkswagen and Porsche, which go to time units, where they pay you 0.01 minute to work on something. God damn it, it takes me a minute to get the car out of the lot.
Okay. In 100th place.
Okay, so let me explain some of how the technician gets paid.
And to preface it all too, the technicians are not paid any sort of flat hourly or salary. At least in the shops that I've worked in, do not have a base guaranteed income.
Maybe the oil change guys might. Maybe
there are lube technicians and there are hourly,
like
shop rats that are going to do all the stuff that nobody else wants to do. And that's, and that's a good place to start if you've got an opportunity or opening and you are interested in the business.
Get your foot in the door.
That's going to be your foot in the door, $10 an hour, changing oil, doing all the grunt bitch work,
tires, detailing.
Clean up trash. But once you become and develop that skill set of an actual technician, the pay scale changes drastically, hopefully, and then the way the money is divvied out is different than anything else that I've ever run across in my life too. It's one of the last few kind of archaic, won't go away.
It creates so much animosity internally that if they abolished it, it would just would turn the car world on its head.
So talk about it all the time.
There's got to be about 10 different ways or methods that technicians get paid, and I've probably been paid about 20 of them because I've fought, scraped, and chewed and argued my way into different pay styles, to try to make everything work. So the most basic one is flat rate. So I go to work, and if I sit in front of my toolbox for 6 hours, you know how many hours I'm paid for? 0. I only get paid when I'm literally touching and fixing a car, because every job is assigned a time or allotted time, we'll say. So if your car comes in and it has a check engine light, Ralph's going to tell you, I need a minimum of 1 hour diagnosis, which means I'm going to get paid 1 hour, whether I figure that car out in 1 minute or if it takes me 6 hours to figure it out. Okay. Theoretically, I mean, there's times where we'll use up that whole hour and say, listen, I read the code and I thought I can diagnose it. I've spent an hour on it, maybe an hour and a half just to be sure. And I need more time. So we got to stop, call the customer and say, it's going to take more time. So
usually those cases are when disassembly is required. We're going to have to, remove a control unit, use the breakout box to do resistance testing. It's not...
Ooh, big words. Here we go.
Yeah, not just plugging in a OBD2 scanner and telling you...
which we shouldn't have.
Generic fault code.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what we recommend. These are going to be like the 20% of diagnostics that are not standard items.
Yeah, or at least the first time we encounter the problem is when we use most of the real authentic diagnostic stuff, because we're trying to figure out, what did that code mean? Why did it set? How is this happening? What can we do to make it happen? All that stuff.
And there's a lot of techs out there that'll just read a code, shotgun a part at it, and then it's your problem. If they don't fix it, then it's on you to pay for whatever the next step is. And that's not and that's not a technician that obviously you're going to go back to that shop or recommend your friends or family to use. So that's what we're trying to get around to, is that, in order to be successful, the time has to be taken to accurately diagnose and spend the time, and communicate with the client on what's going on, what's needed, and potentially more diagnosis if it's required. You can't obviously surprise someone with a 5-hour diagnostic bill and then tell them you just reset it and whatever the case is.
It's got to have some meat to it,
right? You can't spring that on them after the fact. These things need to be updated and kept up to date along the way.
But by the way, the term shotgunning is no different than buckshot of a shotgun. It means you just shoot a crap ton of parts at it and hope something works.
Something sticks.
Okay. So that's a term that we use inside the dealership, is shotgunning parts at it. That or throwing parts at it, or I don't know, fucking around. Part hanger. Yeah, just whatever. But so let's walk through a bad day. 4 hours go by. It's noon. I haven't worked on anything. I haven't made any money. The first car that comes in is a 10-year-old car that's never had any service work done here. We have no idea the service work. So that's kind of primo. That's what I want to see, right? So I get to look over the whole car, and I'll probably come up with a whole list of stuff, which may pay me 12 hours if they sell it, if Ralph sells it for me, and if we have all the parts in stock and they're correct. That's another podcast in itself. And if I have the time to finish it in an amount of time. So that job may come in. So I'm going to hurry up, look over this car. And in days past, when I was only chasing the dollar amount, I would hurry up and only fix what the car needed, or just shotgun a part at it and book that 1 hour real quick, or 2 hours, whatever it paid, shoot it back out the front door and hope for the next car, because you can't work on 2 cars at one time. So you got to finish one before they give you another work order. So you'd hurry up and blow through the first one, waiting for the second one, hoping it's better than the first one. That one would roll in and it'd be an oil change for 0.3, right? So it takes you half hour to do an oil change, only getting paid 15 minutes for, or 18 minutes or whatnot. My math is bad currently, but so in the meantime, the customer comes to pick up the first car you shotgun the part at. Customer gets in the car, drives down the road. That's when you have the problem where I just had my car there. They put a part on it. Now the light's back on. I bring it back. Now it needs something else. Well, here's what happened there. The guy made his hour the first time. He knows it's a comeback, meaning he's got to fix it again. They're either called comebacks or reworks, or the worst ones are never leaves, because the light came back on before the car even left before the customer even gets there. So now the comeback comes back, right? And what should happen is the technician now fixes it for free, and the shop absorbs the part cost as to whatever the new part may cost. But what really happens is the technician says, well, that did fix it 50%. So now we need to put in, now we need to put in this other part to fix it the rest of the way. And I would have never known this other part was bad until we fixed the first part. Right. So they pretty much pull the wool over your eyes in most cases.
There are exceptions.
There are some exceptions, because sometimes it does happen and you don't know until you fix the first thing.
Or the check engine light's been on for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how those scenarios come to play, is the guy hurried through the first job to make that quick buck. on to the next car. Then your car comes back. Well, he don't want egg on his face. Another term for, being crappy at what you do and being caught with your pants down. But so now he's got to find a way to make it not his fault, right? So now he's going to try to sell you more diagnosis, or just here's what you need now. Puts that part on and, God forbid, actually road test it to make sure it's fine, fixes it the second time, and your story is, wow, they really took care of me. They had to put 2 parts on to fix it, when in all reality, the guy screwed up the first time. Second time actually took his time to do it right, and that's when he took care of you. So that's the bad part with flat rate, is depending on how the technician's day is going can really depend on the estimate you're going to get. Right. And let's say I look at the book and the book says it pays half an hour, and I've done this job. It does not pay half an hour. I don't give a crap what that book says. They're not doing this job in front of me. I'm doing this job. I'm worth more than that half an hour. So I'm going to make up my own estimate based on what I know I can do it in feasibly and make a little bit of money on, to where I'm not taking advantage of the customer. So I may bump that double. I may make it an hour. That's the crack of the halfway mark. I may make that estimate an hour, because I know that for me, that job is worth an hour to me, because I can get it done in under an hour, but something may happen which may prevent me from getting it done in under an hour. So I need to have that cushion. Okay. And a primo example of that is rear differentials on a Mercedes. I can knock those things in and out in an hour and a half. They paid 7 hours. Some of them paid 4, some of them paid 9. So I just made it across the board. If I do a diff, 6 or 7 hours, right?
Right.
All inclusive. Whatever it took to do that, 6 or 7 hours. So some I made great money on, some I made break even, and some I lost on. But the average was, I made the right amount of money for me, for what my time was worth to do that car, based on, my experience. Now,
right. You are paying for experience too. It's not just, a technician's time, but accuracy, speed. Clients are expecting their cars to be done in a reasonable amount of time, not realizing a lot of times that their car's not the only one there that day. So you're also paying for the expertise, the knowledge, the special tools involved in doing a lot of the repairs, the correct fluids, the correct, seals, the correct, reinstallation tools, or, whatever is required to do a job. But yeah, there's a lot of variance in that sense that you could get from shop to shop, or, tech to tech, even on what a repair would cost.
Absolutely. One guy may want to use that special tool that it takes to put that seal in every time. Another guy may go, what special tool? I use a hammer and wood.
Made his own tool, or, whatever, figured out an easier way to do it. Just, because a tech time is different doesn't necessarily mean that, one person is screwing you or not. It could just be based on that person's ability and comfort with doing that repair.
Absolutely. There's time, I can't remember the repairs now, but there's times that I would charge so less for a repair, because I know I can do it so fast that I didn't feel right charging 3 extra hours above,
pilot bushings,
Oh yeah, certain things.
So many things that we see over and over again.
We've done them so repetitive. The tools were already in the cart. I didn't even have to work for it. They just popped in and popped out. So why not make it beneficial for the customer?
Sure.
I made a couple bucks on my end. So walking through a technician's day, let me go back to it's been 4 hours. I'm sitting in the toolbox. Nothing comes through. Something finally comes through. I write up a manual of 14 pages of estimates, right? And, some customers say, oh, that's all it needs. Go ahead and do it. Some may say, you've got to be crazy. I'll just trade the car in, which is fine, right? Your call, your decision. But my job as a technician is to provide you with what your failures are and what it's going to take to make it as it rolled off the dealership assembly line, for the most part. I'm not going to quote interior rear view mirrors or trims that are scratched,
unless you ask
within reason. Yeah.
If you start seeing quotes pop up on weird trim items, either that parts department has a surplus of that part they want to get rid of, or someone's just super anal about a certain part of a car. I mean, usually, unless you ask for it, you're not going to get quotes on trim items, on, most of the time at a dealership, even a windshield, because we don't do windshields there. Paintless dent repair. If you ask for it, we can get a quote on it. But if we're just doing a mechanical and maintenance inspection. Those are the types of quotes you're going to get. Tires, brakes, oil or fluid leaks, safety, maintenance type items. However, if you ask for a detailed list of other types of things or specific components, we'll prep that for you. But please use reason.
Yeah. Reason. So the car comes in, I give a huge estimate, right? And then I'm on to the next car. 5 o'clock comes and the whole day I made 2 hours. So I was there maybe 12 hours waiting for cars, hoping something would come in, walking around looking for something to work on that was going to pay something, right? So now Monday went by. I start Tuesday off with only 2 hours in the pocket. Now
for the week.
So far, paid. 2 hours, okay? And some shops have a guarantee, which means as long as you are there for 40 hours or more, you'll get paid a minimum of 32 hours. I, however, was never lucky enough to work at one of those shops, and honestly never needed to collect a guarantee because I've always made it work for myself. I found something to do. I didn't just wait for someone to give me work. I would search out something and find something to do. But so you start out Tuesday in the hole, right? First car that rolls in, well, depending on the technician, and he's got to make his hours up, may depend on the estimate you get. He may quadruple charge what normally a job would take, or all of a sudden he needs 4 hours of diagnosis for this when he already knows what the problem is, right? And it goes in the bag. And, the guy up front is none the wiser because he doesn't know what's going through the technician's head or what's happening. That car can sit there all day, and every time he goes back there, he sees a tech underneath it, but he just happened to be there at the right time, right? So, so that's where it gets tricky. Now, there's good and bad to that because, some guys know what they're doing and they're very honest, and they only charge what it's supposed to charge, and that's it. Well, I don't want to say I wasn't honest, but I was honest with myself. Should I only be allowed to make this much on this job, right? Like, what was this job worth to me? And that's how I took it as. So some of my estimates were padded, but some were knocked down low because it was quick. But I was also the same guy that would spend 3 hours on a car, not find an issue, and give the keys back to the customer and say no charge because I couldn't find anything. How can I charge you and sleep at night if I didn't find anything? Sure. Granted, I lost my ass on it, right? But I'll make it up in the future with you when you come back.
Right. That building that relationship in long term, is a two-way street. We'll be there for you, and and there's situations like that. If I don't write them up as much anymore because I've got a hand scanner. So if there's a minor evap leak code on a check engine light, on the drive, I can reset it. But,
here we go. There goes my auto diagnosis.
Right. Yeah. No sense in paying this guy. He's just standing back there scanning people out.
But that's the stuff that creates animosity, right? So
it does.
Why is my advisor? Yeah. Why is my advisor diagnosing something and I'm losing out on a diagnostic, right?
Right.
But the offset to that is he took care of a customer that really didn't need diagnosis because he just left his gas cap off while he drove from the gas station home and it set the light. So there's no reason to charge him, which I wouldn't either. I'd get the job. I'd have authorized, 1 hour diag. I'd run the codes and say, you know what, man, there wasn't a problem with this. I don't even want the diag because there was nothing wrong. Just let him keep his money, right?
And it's a machine you have to feed. The idea is that the technicians will be back there on other work, being busy and making you money while you take care of as many of the small items that would waste time.
The nuances.
And that wouldn't end up, making you any money, or the money would make you to have to argue over, or, would cause animosity between a client and an employee there. So you can get that stuff out of the way and just get it done and get that person down the road. And you have to use your own discretion, and being there longer helps too. And knowing the people that are coming in, trying to take advantage of you. Because you'll have that. You'll have people that, try to get every free thing they can out of you and never spend a dime at the dealer.
Absolutely.
And those people, you eventually do have to put your foot down. And, if they're not at this point smart enough to go get their own OB2 scanner for $25, you can buy them so cheap now. If you're just wanting to reset codes and that's all you care about is whether the light's on or off, or if you're, trying to build a long-lasting relationship with, a service center to take care of your vehicle. We see all range, all spectrum of people. So,
sometimes in those instances, the customer won, the technician lost, but Ralph kind of won or lost, right? So He would have wrote up the ticket for 1 hour diagnosis, drove the car to the back for me to check it out. I go to the car, spend 15 minutes to hook up the scanner, let it run through its tests and diagnostics, whatever you want to call it, read the code, check the data on it, and basically the customer left the gas cap off when he was filling gas, okay? Erase the code. I'm not going to charge him. No big deal. Give it back to him. I wasted 20 minutes of my time. In the meantime of checking that one out, the customer was waiting for no reason, and Ralph had given the next best job to the guy next to me.
Right.
So the next guy's working, making an 8-hour ticket.
Sure.
Here I just did something for free, right? So now I'm mad at Ralph because he gave me some bullshit ticket that he could have just did in the drive, which I would have yelled at him for anyways.
So yeah, either way, I'm giving you on that.
Yeah, so the animosity is just, it's there.
It's always there. There's always a little bit.
It reminds me of, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, right?
Right.
He says, I think Tony Stark asked him, how do you contain it? And he goes, I'm always angry, right? Well, that's me. I was always angry. Sometimes I let it show and sometimes I didn't, right?
But you have to be. I mean, it's our livelihood. We're not there to hang out and be buddies. I mean, fortunately,
that's
we're
a bonus.
able to get along.
It's a bonus.
You'll have people you get along with and people you don't. But at the end of the day, we're all there. All the employees are there to earn a living. We're there to make money. I'll never forget, mostly because it was fairly recent within the last year or so, but I was working a Saturday and at our dealership, and on Saturdays, one service rider works for all 4 brands. So when it's your Saturday, you've got Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, Mercedes, all
cars
coming out to
wazoo.
One desk. Most of them are walk-ups. Most of them are weird situations that you don't really know how to handle, so you kind of have to just react off the fly. Well, these people had a Volkswagen, I think it was a diesel Jetta, some sort of Volkswagen that had a check engine light on. While this car was under a warranty, a manufacturer's warranty coverage under the specific component, I don't remember what it was now, but they refused, and it was in the notes in ADP that they had refused diagnosis that ultimately would have been covered under the extended warranty. They didn't want to pay for diagnosis at the time. And they were just arguing, fighting with me after the fact when another mechanic that they had paid a cheaper diagnosis to told them, this is what's wrong. It should be covered under this warranty extension. Well, by that time, they brought it back to the dealership, it was out by time. But they had brought it in with the check engine light prior to it. It most likely would have been, but they didn't agree. That's all they had to do was agree to it. They wouldn't have ended up having to pay diagnosis because it was covered under this warranty
extension. It was just a fail safe for us to say we would have been paid for our time if it wasn't.
Right. We still need the technician time to be able to diagnose it. If it is, great. Then great for the client. It would have been obviously a free repair. The technician would have gotten what they agreed to sign on with which was with the factory repair of it. May not have been great, but everybody wins. The client gets a free repair, technician gets paid something, for doing the work and replacing the item. But just arguing with the people about, just from a client standpoint of not understanding how flat rate works, and just realize, kind of coming to realize like, these people have no idea, what is involved in diagnosing something, and how would they personally feel in their job or their profession if they had to do that job for free on the hope, on the chance that maybe someone will buy something.
Correct.
And it is, like you said, it's a fail safe to kind of weed out people that would take advantage of it. Unfortunately, that's our front line, kind of CYA, cover your ass.
And it even happens with the warranty.
Agree to that.
The brand new warranty cars, right? You bring a car in, say I got these complaints. They'll say, okay, well,
not going to be covered
if it's not warranty, we need you to know that you'll be responsible for half hour of our time.
And that really upsets people sometimes.
Yeah, and it's not every shop, it's not every scenario, but it's certain ones that may take a lot of time, and it's really questionable right up front whether it's warranty or not.
It's better to have that conversation up front than it is after the fact. Usually the only people that I really enforce it with are the people that really ask. If they question it, like, could there potentially be any cost, then yes. If for some reason this was a outside influence, a rodent damage, you spilled your, Coke down the center console and it ruined whatever inside of it. There are cases where a car under factory warranty is not going to get all repairs for free.
Absolutely.
It's just not going to happen.
But what about that bumper to bumper warranty they bought from the used car department?
Yeah. And just a key warranty thing to remember is if you do buy a third party warranty, only the components listed in that contract are covered. That's it. You're not going to get anything worded or termed another name. It's only listed in that contract. They will be very specific on what's covered, and that's a different episode. But
extended warranties are a different episode.
It's a whole
on their own,
different ball game.
We will blow the lid off that game right there.
Yeah, Lou's got some deep insight.
I will make technicians rich off of extended warranties, and I will take care of customers as well. I mean, unbelievable. So. Back to the technicians being paid. Let's touch on that customer real quick. That was not wanting to pay for diagnostics. To me, I believe that advisor at that time could have went deeper and asked that customer, "Why are you so against this? What happened in the past? What mechanic touched you, right?
And that
made you tainted to the car world. That happens. They've had a bad experience, and they'll never be the same until somebody." Shows them compassion or empathy and let them know that it's not like that everywhere you go, right?
Sure. And it's case by case, if this were the most reason I gave that example was because that was a Volkswagen. I didn't have any, history with the person. If that would have been someone on my side that I knew, and it might have been a different situation, but looking back, we have the ability to look up all the service history on the car, and I could see it never been, to the dealership for anything except for recalls and warranty work. And so you get a pretty good idea of what that, customer's mindset. I'm here because I can get hopefully some free stuff. And it's not my job or it's not my responsibility to tell the technician who, I rely on to make me money as well. It's a two-way street. I'm not just there to make him money. He's there to make me money. We both rely on each other, that he's going to do this potential diagnostic for free.
Right.
I can't do that.
You've told me once, twice, but
well, there are times you got to lay down the law. No, but
I'm good, Papa.
Right. We're there for each other, and it's a symbiotic, client, writer, technician relationship. It's case by case, and there's different situations for every, little nuance. But
so back to the flat rate.
Yeah,
man, these tangents. We got so many topics, so many
rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. So I'm only paid by the jobs that I do. Right, what's sold and quoted on the job. If it takes longer time, it doesn't. I don't get paid anymore. If it takes less time, then I've made that much on that job. Just like commission, right? If you oversell, okay. So some guys purposely oversell.
It's profit margin,
and that's where they make their money from it. There was other scenarios to where a team of guys would work together. So there'd be 5 guys, and then they'd get all the work, and then there'd be one team leader who would dispatch the work to everybody else. And you guys either shared all the hours everybody made, which blew ass because, I was extremely fast and efficient at what I did. So, if you had somebody else that wasn't as fast or efficient, it would kind of take away from you and drag you down, right? Although the cars were fixed and the clients were happy,
there'd be resentment.
There's still resentment. And it's not the individual's fault, right? It's just, it's the way that you were presented the pay plan, or that's how that dealership does it, which I'm sure all you guys out there that may be on team, you know who the gravy guy is, who the diagnostic guy is, who the comeback guy is. I mean, everybody's got those guys. The other offset of it is some shops, which I don't believe in this, have a brake guy, a transmission guy, an alignment guy, a diagnostic, guy, interior guy, tire guy. I don't like that, man. It's a car. You should be able to fix it bumper to bumper with exception to body work. Okay. Because not every shop does body work, and that's another world in itself. But I was the kind that I was the car guy. If it broke, I'll fix it. Right. I didn't excel at one thing. I don't see a reason why somebody shouldn't be able to fix everything. I mean, maybe some guys are just more specialized and that's all they do day in and day out. which is fine, but I don't see the benefit to that, because if the brake guy is loaded up on 20 cars, the alignment guy standing there doing nothing, right? I mean, you tell me the alignment guy can't do brakes, so those shops kind of make me angry. Or when I hear I brought it to the transmission specialist, it's a car. It should be a car specialist, right? You should be able to fix everything in there. Theories are theories, and everything functions however it functions. But, so from the standpoint as to, you get an estimate, Ralph's trying to sell you air filter installed $200. Your job is to ask Ralph, what does that estimate entail? How much is parts? How much is labor? And how much is that bullshit shop fee that every shop charges, which we call the shop tip, for lubricants and rags and the technician Slurpees or whatever. Barbecues on Fridays. Shop charge. Yeah. But, Ralph's going to respond with, how much for an air filter part, right? $60.
Yeah.
Okay.
$60, $80.
Taxes $3.
Right.
Labor's $42. There's no tax on labor, right? That equals whatever it equals. That's your dollar amount. So
ranges, ask when they're due, when the last time it was replaced, if the technician checked the condition of the filter, all that stuff that will help you make the right decision. Hopefully, you know the history of your vehicle well and when the last time it was done. But for the most part, take their word for it. Unless they've given you some reason not to trust them, then
Story
don't
time.
take it there.
Story time. Here's a reason.
Yes.
My brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Larold. Okay. Not a car guy. Right.
Yeah.
Asked me one time, "Hey, Louis, I get my car oil changes every 3,000 miles. How often should I be putting spark plugs in it?"
Oh boy.
Well, why do you ask? Well, every time I go there, they say I need spark plugs. Okay, man. How about you don't go there? How about you don't go there no more? Pontiac Grand Am.
Oh boy.
100,000 mile plugs, and he's doing them every 3,000 miles.
Oh my God.
He's buying maybe 2 or 3 times that he'd had them installed, right? Air filter 2 or something like that. Maybe. I mean, he's going to be mad that I referenced this, but to the unknowledgeable, right? You're at the mercy of the shop. Now, let's say
want to trust them.
Let's say you took it to 3 different shops. That's bad. They don't know the history.
Right.
So all they can do is present to you what it could need based on time and miles, right? Yeah. So it may not be the shop's fault.
And that's where it makes it difficult.
You don't say nothing. You get the estimate, and next thing you're doing is you're telling all your friends the shop's a thief because they want to put plugs in you just had done at another shop. Well, they don't fucking know, dude. Tell them what's going on.
And that's a big part of the service writer's job too. Is especially with newer technicians, as they get more experience, this doesn't happen as often, but I always, especially with longtime clients that I want to maintain that relationship with, I always double check the history just to make sure it's not something we've done before, or there was some reason a note in there said the client replaced their own air filter or whatever, just to cover my bases and double check, because you don't want to be caught in that situation where you're recommending something you guys just did the last, and the technician just missed it.
That's the worst.
It's just it's
sometimes
such
it's simple oversight, or maybe you're thinking of the wrong car,
and most of the time it could have been an honest mistake. And not everything that gets presented to you in an incorrect fashion was a outright
deliberate,
attempt to take your money. It just could have been an honest mistake. The technician missed, the service writer missed, you missed. I'm sure it's been done before, but keep good service records on the car. Try to keep track of what's done when. If you just try to follow the manufacturer's recommendations, you really can't go wrong. You just do it. Most of the things are pretty infrequent, unless you're just putting a shit ton of miles on the car.
Oh yeah.
So it's just best to follow that guide.
Couple of takeaways. Easy. When you go to a shop, find out the door labor rate. That means what they charge per hour, right? So if they tell you this job's going to pay, or this air filter install is $50, that should mean in theory the technician gets paid 50 or half an hour for that job. Okay,
if they're $100 an hour.
If they're $100 an hour, yep. Okay, so. That's where the math can come into play, and it could work to your advantage sometimes. One of my tricks as an advisor to hit my bonus was our door rate was $105. I would charge $107. That extra $2 would actually bump me up a different pay scale, and I'd make more. So on the customer end, it's only $2. You're not going to miss it. But on my end, that made me an extra $100 at the end of the month, if not more.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, hey, on this estimate you gave me, I want the parts, the tax, and the labor breakdown. And you know, you don't really have to know the hours. You can kind of do that yourself to divide by it. But then, you know, feel free to ask, hey, how did you come to this conclusion that this job pays this much? You know, if the dealership is transparent, they have no problem showing you, here's what book time says. Here's why we're charging extra, because yours has 200,000 miles on it. It's covered in grease and oil. We're going to have to break some bolts apart. You know, those can be variations that are perfectly acceptable in our minds, because I don't see how you can tell me what I should make on this job. I'm the one who's got to do it. I know what it's going to take and how long it's going to take me, right? So I should have some leadway to provide you with the estimate that's going to take me to do this job.
And I think we've all tried to fix things on our own cars or around the house that, you know, just should be super straightforward. Well, I've tried to replace a light switch before, you know, and if it's a two-way with one downstairs and one upstairs, you know, getting one wire wrong, it should be, right. I should be able to unbolt the wires from this switch and bolt them onto this switch and put it back in, and things work the way that it did before I took it out.
Well, what about that light switch that ran the glow plug light in Corey Robinson's diesel? It was a light switch.
That was an actual light switch.
A car house light switch wired into, a house light switch wired into the car's glow plug lamp.
Was that on the white diesel that you put the engine in?
Yeah. So on the old one.
That thing. I wonder where it's at now. I think he still has it, but
I've seen him at the gym. We'll get a hold of him. We'll have him call him.
Yeah, I still talk to him every once in a while. But Alicia and I, we drove a rental car out to Baltimore to buy that car for him and drove it all the way back in the middle of winter.
Only to find out that a light switch, a house light switch was wired into under the dash.
If it was that way before we got it, or if he did that. I think he did that after.
I don't think
it was like that.
We'd have to let's ask him. We'll get him on. We'll get him on and ask him.
Yeah, this is
so inquire. About, oh yeah, we got it on tape or digital recording,
something like that.
Takeaway:
ask questions.
Ask questions. Yeah. There's no problem with asking. If you start asking questions and your advisor starts getting defensive, they're doing something wrong.
Problem.
Yeah, there's a problem. There should be no problem justifying to you why everything is what it is. Same thing with the technician. You know, the technician says something's wrong. Well, guess what? I want to know who the technician's name is, and I'd like to talk to him if he's got time. You know, there should be no problem with that. Some shops don't want you to do that, mainly because they want them working at all times.
Right. And there are insurance, you know, going into the shop and there being oil on the floor or hitting your head. There are insurance regulations, but if you set up a time or request it and, you know, you're not just being completely belligerent, you know, most almost all shops are going to be willing to work with you and let you see the problem that's wrong with your car and why it's recommended. Talk to the technician directly. I mean, what's the most it's going to take? 5-10 minutes? Most conversations
just to walk through
quickly. Once they see that you're willing to talk to them, most people back down almost immediately and realize that you're being honest with them. But if they're
in 2 or 3 questions of asking, you'll know by their eye movements, how they
reaction to the question.
Well, it's broke. Yeah, but why is it broke? It's not working. Okay, well,
if no one has a straight answer, you know, and everyone feels, or you feel like everyone's trying to hide something from you, you know, more than likely they are. But
All right. Stealership Stories. Hopefully by now we have a subscribe button, an email below, something like that.
Stealershipstories@gmail.com.
Yeah, an email. If not, I'll give you Ralph's home address. You can send him some letters.
P.O. box, hopefully.
Christmas gifts or something like that. Yeah. Share, please. Refer us. We'd love to
interview you, talk to you, take calls, emails.
We want the good, the bad, the ugly. We want success stories, you know, great stories. We want the horrible stories. We're gonna blow the lid off some shops that you shouldn't go to. You know, there's nothing to hide, right? I mean, why not take care of the next guy by telling them where not to go?
Yeah.
So, Stealership Stories. Thank you very much.
Be cool.